Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and earn even more money. All in one place, and it's for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup looks like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters, we feel like having options like video podcasts, Q&A, and polls has let us be creative on a whole other level. I highly recommend you give it a try. So download Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Welcome back, Exes and T podcast fans. Hey guys, it's Danny. By the time you guys are hearing this, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. I'm really excited to kind of see where things go with the podcast in 2024. You guys already know, though, how are we going to start out 2024? We're going to start out with another Amway story because that's why we're here. I never knew that this podcast was ever going to take that turn, but I am so here for it. So now that we know we're going to talk about Amway, you guys already know, let's get it with the disclaimers. I am not here to defame anybody. My guest is not here to defame anybody. Okay. We're talking about lines of affiliation, such as Worldwide Dream Builders. Worldwide might come up, LTD, URA, whoever we talk about. Hey, you know what? If you want to join these organizations and you're a grown adult, I mean, you can make your own decisions. I would heavily encourage you to listen to some stories, maybe make some changes if you want to. Everything that we talk about is purely based on personal opinions, based on personal experiences. You guys, we went through this stuff. We're not here speaking some unfounded stuff. We're not making anything up. Let's see. What else do I need to say to not get sued? Oh yeah. All of the uplines names have been changed. Actually, my guest is coming on anonymously as well. Her name has been totally changed. So yeah, we got personal experience, opinions, allegedly. Don't sue me. Okay. With that being said, you guys, I'm really excited. I have had the opportunity to talk to somebody who has messaged me so much information, just message after message with valuable stuff, you guys. And what's really cool is that she's on Instagram. Her name is so cryptid, it's so dope. But she's been a long time listener. I'm really excited to actually get the opportunity to talk to her. You guys, let's bring on the Red Rose. Hello, Rose.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's an honor to be here. It's been a long time coming. I feel like one of the OGs when Zay and Melody started. I started that Instagram page just shortly after, and it just took off from there.
Yeah, yeah. So that is the WWDB_scam, right? That's your Instagram
Actually,
handle?
yep,
Yes. Zay and Melody really started something.
they
I
did.
I hope that one day they come back, but I hope if they're listening that they're so proud that they started this. Like I will 110% always credit Zay and Melody. I think that their content will always be relevant, but they were really, from what I saw on the internet, some of the first people talking about Amway and Worldwide Dream Builders specifically.
Absolutely. So the way I stumbled upon them was that I was looking for an Amway like facial video just to see the process and how do I even do this, right? And the next video that played was one of theirs. So
Oh, so you weren't
it
even
was
looking
like
for negative.
I was not. The algorithm was just on my side that day, I guess.
No, it was the good Lord looking at all. Wow. When you started your Instagram page, what was your journey starting your page?
Um, so I had been in the business by this point about a year, and I had sponsored two. And um and once I saw that video from Zayn Melody, I was like, huh. And then I looked at all the comments and I was like, wow, if a lot of people feel like this, there has to be truth to it, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I felt like I was so blind was because my upline, um, they rose pretty fast. Like when I met them, they went from when I met them, they went from like 3 to 4 being sponsored to almost double eagle, and they went platinum. Like it was
Wow.
crazy fast in 1 year, so I felt like I was blind because I saw it before me, them growing crazy fast. So, but when I saw the Zay and Melody videos, like, okay. And then I started digging more, and then I noticed also that um the more videos they come out with and they pointed out something that was terrible in worldwide, my upline diamonds, which are Paul and Remy, they're the couple that had the kids young, um, when they were like 15 or 16. Um, so, uh, or what was I going with this? Oh yeah, they would all of a sudden change, like, we got to do this now. We got to do this now. And it was like, what? Like they had just said that in their video like a week ago. And then the next board plan was like, oh, we got to get all these customers in all of a sudden.
Wow. Yeah. Zay and Melody shed some light on some very, very important topics when it comes to the way that Worldwide runs. And I'm really excited to kind of get into a little bit later, like some of the Amway site rules and how it
Mm-hmm.
all connects. It is wild. Like you
Yep.
are the wealth of information, which I am so excited to talk about. But I want to talk about before we went to the dark side, right?
Yeah.
How did you get introduced to Amway?
Yeah. So I teach middle school. And some high school girls, they came back to visit and they're like, oh, we want to go to this college, but we don't have the money. And I said to them, um, you can never go wrong with education, right? You can always excel at something. And even if you don't work in the field that you graduated in, you at least have the education and the knowledge of more things than the average person, right? But I said, but the downfall of that is that you come out with 30, 40, $50,000 in debt like I did. I came out with 50 in debt. And so it's like you're working the job that I have is because I have to have a bachelor's and a teaching credential, but I wouldn't have that job if I didn't have those two things, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a catch 22. You can't do the job without the education, but you can't get the education without the money. So you're like, it's like a circle, right? Because you're paying back the money from your job, right? So, and then that's when who would be my sponsor, Susan, she was walking back and forth. She was the after school supervisor, and she's like, actually, I've met someone who's from the North Bay. We're from the Bay Area, California. So she's like, someone from the North Bay who did do it. He used to be he got his wife pregnant when they were like 15. He was down the wrong path. And he came out of that. He was able to do it. And I was like, what? Like obviously there are success stories, right? But do you ever really meet someone who is that successful? No, you don't,
Right.
right? So I was like, okay. So I just kind of left it at that. And then um talk about like unprofessional. Like 3 days later, she messaged me on our school email to tell me about the opportunity.
No way. What? I can't. I totally see what you mean by unprofessional. That's crazy. Like
Yeah.
your work email. Like she could have even just been like, "Hey, you want to talk later?" It was your work email. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Or like she could have came the next day, and be like, oh, blah, blah, can I get your number? Right. But it was through a work
Yeah,
email. Yeah.
that's so cringe. But wow, yeah. So I remember hearing about Paul and Remy, right? I remember hearing about them. I was there actually when they crossed stage. That's like the first FED that I had. Um, you guys don't know this couple just because they're a very like gym couple. So if you know, you
Yes.
know. The guy has like super bushy eyebrows. That's like the one thing I
Yes.
remember about this dude is he has like super bushy
And
eyebrows. Like this
and
guy is
she's
like
like she's super buff.
Yes, and blonde. At least she was
And
back
blonde.
then.
I believe
Um,
still is now. So, but
wow.
yeah.
So, wow, there's a lot to unpack in just how you found out about this opportunity because you're giving what is actually really good advice to kids who, well, are going down a similar path. Maybe they don't
Mhm.
want to be in education, but they want to go to college, and
Right.
you're giving very sound advice. Like, go to college, even if you're not working in your field, like, you have the degree, you have something there, you worked
Mhm.
towards something, you show that you're dedicated, that you're consistent, that you did something.
Right.
And this person was like, nah, don't do that. Like, let me tell you about a couple who was not in debt. Like, knowing what I know now, that's crazy. But being kind of reverting myself back to that, like, I don't know situation, it does sound appealing, right? Like,
Right.
I want to get out of debt. Who doesn't? And
Right. Right.
the way that they pitch is crazy. So, what was your first meeting with who would become your sponsor?
Yeah, so we had set out a meeting in the local Starbucks, right next to the school actually. And uh she was like, "Well, tell me about your life." And but I had seen her, after school. I had known who she was. We were all introduced to her, right? Because she was the after school like supervisor. So it wasn't like a complete 100% stranger in the store, right? So my initial was like, "Well, I mean, I know her, to work in education, you can't be like a serial killer." So, because you
I
do
mean, you're
get
not,
fingerprinted. So,
they just haven't gotten caught yet.
yeah, this is true. So, there wasn't like a distrust, right? There wasn't like, am I gonna get kidnapped or whatever, right? Um, so when we sat down, I told her about my life story. And at the time, I was in a long distance relationship with my now husband. He was in a different country. And she was like, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, I keep thinking about like when he gets here, what is he going to work in? Like, how are we going to make money? How am I, because I'm responsible for him until he gets a job. Right. So I think that's when her light bulb was like, perfect.
Wow.
Because I was vulnerable, I was thinking about how are we going to make it in the Bay Area with one income?
Right.
So,
Wow. Dang. I mean, you're like ripe for the picking, right?
yeah.
Dang. I have noticed, really do love teachers. Like, teachers are heavily preyed on in this organization. Who would
Mhm.
become my platinum was a teacher, and she had no issue. I mean, she's still in. I call her Barbara. What's up, Barbara? If you're listening, hi. But she's the first person to hate on education. She's like, I was miserable in my field and I was
Mhm.
never going to be able to retire and like all these other horrific things. But then other people that I meet who work in education and they've been in it long term, like, they have nothing but positive things to say. I mean, of course,
Right.
there's, hard times and things can get pretty political, but otherwise, when it comes to the job itself, like helping kids, right? Like, it's such a positive thing. And for somebody to all of a sudden kind of hop into this opportunity and have nothing but negative to say about it is very, very sad and disheartening.
Yeah.
But again, going back to, if I didn't know, I would understand. Um,
Right.
so eventually, I'm sure I don't know. Back then, did they have the process? Like, would you go through a quote interview process with them?
Yeah. Yeah. She had outlined it like a meet and greet one, then two, and then eventually some type of board plan. So by the third time I would know, but because it was such a they had just had their major function, it's like in April or something, right? They didn't have a house board plan for like another like 3 or 4 weeks or like a
Oh,
major board plan. So I feel like mine was a little bit out of order because there was no board plan for a while. So we
right.
had like 3 meet and greets and then a board plan. And my first board plan was the guy that talked really fast.
Ah, the guy who talks really fast. This guy. Wow.
And all
Wow.
I remember from that is he was like, "Those Instagram models," like putting them down and,
Yeah.
showing their chichis and nalgas, their boobs and butts, right?
Yeah, the misogyny that comes from these people, it's wild, but they talk like that, which it's so icky.
Yeah.
But so how long into this process did you finally find out that it was Amway? Were they right up front about it, or
No.
did you kind of learn over time?
No, it wasn't until that 4th time when it was the board plan that I knew it was Amway. So, yeah, the first 3 times it was just talking about, like, process and or results and reading, Go Giver and
Yes, I read that one too.
Business of the 21st Century, and then just basically getting a mindset feel for me, right? And stuff like that. But, and my process took a lot longer because I had to go back to my husband's country, to visit him, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's from the Caribbean, so the country that he's specifically from, they can't visit the states because they need a tourist visa or some type of visa to get in, right?
Got it. Got it. Okay.
So, um, so whenever there was a major function, it was like, well, I'm out of the country, you know?
Yeah. Did they ever like kind of were they ever hard on you about that? Like missing a
Um,
major function?
for one of them, yes, because the July major function, what is that, family reunion? Or whatever the July,
Yes.
it happened to fall on the same weekend that we were getting married on the beach.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was like, "I'm gonna be gone," and because, I'm a teacher, I only get 1 week off here, 1 week off there, and I was like, "I'm gonna go for, like, a month and a half," like, I wanna be with him, you know? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I left, and I remember her calling me and being like, "Oh, yeah, you're gonna be gone, just make sure you still keep up with the Kates and the the listening to the audios every day." And I was like, "Oh, okay," but at that time I was so brainwashed still, right, that I was like, "Okay." And I did when
Right.
I was over there, because we had to take the bus everywhere because neither one of us had a car. I would just listen to whatever I could during those bus rides, and that was it. But I mean, like, I couldn't, like, go out and talk to people because I can't build a business there, Um, but yeah, I remember her saying that, the Diamond, Paul, was like, "Why isn't she going?" Like, so because, they can see who has bought a ticket. If you don't know that, they can see on their app who has bought a ticket, who has not. So he asked specifically, "Why hasn't she bought a ticket?" And she was like, "Well, she's getting married that weekend outside of the country." And they were like, "Well, they had to take it. I mean, what were they gonna do?"
Diamond was so concerned about what and I say this to not be offensive because it is who we are. We're the base level people, right? Like a diamond
Yeah.
was so concerned that one person didn't buy their ticket, which of course we know now why, but dang.
Mhm,
So I'm
mhm.
really excited, by the way. That's an exciting wedding. That's like really cool.
It
Getting
was
married on the
beautiful.
beach. Like, forget the major function, honestly. Like, that's
Yeah.
way
You know
better.
what? I do not regret it, obviously. We're still married, 6 years later, so,
Yeah. Wow. So remind me again, what year were you in the business? What was the time frame?
I was in the business, let's see, it was 2018, I believe. Yes. Yes, 2018. August,
Got it.
technically, like, June 2018 till August 2019. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So actually I left around the same time you had as well.
Mm, mhm.
Um so that 2018 time and when you were kind of I'm one of those I have ADHD, so I'm always going back and forth. But when you're talking about watching the Zayn Melody video and they're talking about something and then they have to change it, I remember those kind of chain reactions happening as well, which is so foreboding for the future of this podcast, right? The where we're going to go in a little bit to talk about it. But
Yep.
anyway, so wow. So you're finally in business and you're married now. What is really, I mean, you were in for about a year. So how long would you say your honeymoon phase was? And what was your husband's interpretation of Amway and Worldwide?
Yeah, so Amway actually was in his country, but not the way like worldwide. It was a strict just selling type of business, not really like a recruit. If people wanted to sell it, great. I mean, like recruit to sell, but it wasn't like what it is here with worldwide or Brit, worldwide UR or whatever. And if you people don't know this, there are like 30 lines of affiliation.
There's a lot
Yeah,
all over the world. I mean, obviously,
yeah.
maybe not there, but yeah,
And they're
I
actually um, they're
go ahead. Sorry.
banned in China, I believe.
Dang, that's crazy. I mean,
But sorry to
yeah.
answer your question. So my husband was just kind of like, oh, okay, I had explained it to him and he was like, all right, just as long as you're not losing money, that's fine. And then so I had sponsored, got on like around June 2018, and he came to the States December 2018. And then um they never really did anything to um get him on board because he only spoke Spanish. So um the one time we had a Spanish board plan was because we had a Spanish contact, and my upline Ruby, Charlie and Madison's Cuban and she spoke Spanish. So we had a board plan, but the contact fell through. They didn't show up. And then at the end of it, they were like, we did this for nothing. And that was the end of my honeymoon phase because I was like, is my husband nothing?
Wow. So they wouldn't even show it to him. They like
No.
because you guys didn't have some. Wow,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You
But he
know,
was still like heavily encouraged to go to all the meetings that were in English. And I remember because they
why?
tell you they tell you like edify your upline, like laugh at every joke, right? And Paul was giving the upline diamond, he was giving the board plan that night. And he's telling his one penny jokes, right? And everyone's like ha 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 ha, and my husband's just blank face, he doesn't understand what's going on. And then at the end of the board plan, he's like, come on guys, just laugh.
Maybe say it in a way that I'll understand it. Like that's crazy. I remember they finally started, at least in our area, they did start having board plans in Spanish because it was a community that was growing and they needed those people
Right.
to be able to show the plan in Spanish in order for them to expand. But I feel like the lack of inclusivity there, like not even to be able to sit down in like a like sure like still show the plan, but their unwillingness to show it for him to understand is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, like there was, I mean, and there was no one who could be like, oh, we're gonna mentor him, right? Like no one took that initiative, nothing. So that was like the start of my like, well, I don't I don't want to do this without him, Um,
Right.
because as a couple, you want to grow together, not opposite directions. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It,
at the end of that board plan, we went up to Paul and I was like, hi, this is my husband. He's from this country that only speaks Spanish. And you could just see his face like, oh shit. Like that's why he
good.
wasn't laughing.
Good. Oh, we felt stupid after that. Damn. Maybe it's just funny too. Like, that's also a possibility. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
if somebody's
It's the
stone
same joke.
faced, I remember being coached too. They'd be like, laugh at all the like during nuts and bolts. I do remember the club owner's wife. She would be like, I don't care if you've heard the club owners same joke a million times. You laugh. Make it a
Hmm.
quote sponsoring environment. And
Right.
it's like looking back, the amount of fake laughing I did is wild to me because that
Hmm.
you have to. But whoa,
Yep.
so your honeymoon phase is pretty short, it sounds like.
Yeah,
And
maybe like 6 months. Yeah.
wow. So what was, I guess, the remaining 6 months like for you?
I mean, I was still into it because I hadn't seen the Zayn Melody videos,
Right,
right? But
right.
after that, it was just kind of like, well, I would get a contact here and there. I would go out and talk to people every day. Um, but then I never sat anyone down again. By the time I called or text someone back, um, like they never returned the call, never returned the text. So it was just like, all right, well, because they keep saying every no gets you closer to your yes.
Right, right, exactly.
So I'm like, well, I've gone through like 30 no's this month. So what's going
You just need 600 more no's before you finally get one yes.
on? Right. So,
Wow.
but I think part of it too was because I told you like my upline that sponsored me, Philip and Susan, they rose to platinum when I was there. And then they had a leg that was like super close to going platinum as well. And the people who had sponsored them, honestly, I cannot remember them. Like for the life of me, I cannot remember their names. I cannot remember what they did like as a job because they were so small in their PV that they were never recognized.
Right.
Um, so my sponsored had superseded them, right, exponentially with PV, and then my rubies, they had a downline, a downline's downline who also was going platinum. So I was seeing all these people go platinum at the same time. So I'm like, okay, so does this really work? You know?
Yeah. Wow. That would raise a belief. I believe that. I think,
Yeah.
if I had seen my upline do anything, and I think we talked about that before, was if I had seen them do anything at all and didn't see them like build an eagle ship, fall out, build an eagle ship,
Right.
fall out, build an eagle ship, fall out like several times. Like sure, who were my eagles went platinum, but even though I saw them, I still was for myself felt very disconnected from them. So seeing them raise the ranks to anything was not, it wasn't some sort of like aha moment for me.
Yeah.
But I could imagine that if my direct sponsor was doing things, oh, totally. That adds
Yeah.
belief, which
Right.
is it is strong. It totally
Yeah.
is. So
But you know, the little like seed of doubt that had grown, even just before watching Zay and Melody's videos, were watching my upline Ruby Madison. She looked so tired because her leg's leg was going to break off, right? So then
yeah.
that meant she had to build a whole other leg to
Wow.
still remain, you know? And I'm like, this
Wow.
is never ending. And I remember thinking that one night, and I'm like, this is never ending, never ending. Because if technically
Right.
she's a ruby and this leg's leg is going to break off, shouldn't she be well off?
Yeah. Wow. I see. It's and learning these things too, because I don't know that when I was in the business, I really ever fully comprehended what it meant to break a platinum leg. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing I ever really thought of was go platinum, 6 platinums, you're a diamond. Like that was
Right.
the entire vision of what I had. And
Yeah,
it
but
isn't
they don't.
until
Yeah,
they
go
don't
ahead.
tell you that.
Yeah, but they don't tell you that when your platinum breaks off, their PV breaks off too.
I didn't know that.
So you lose 7,500, boom, 1 month.
Damn. That's deceptive. Like just the
Mhm.
idea of everything that kind of like looking back, like, dang. No wonder they always teach like what is the crown guy always teach? 20 wide. So that
Yeah,
way you can just keep building and
yeah,
building and building. And in theory,
yeah,
you're supposed to have 6 of them go platinum, which is
right.
so wild. Um, so what were some other red flags that you had started to see before you saw the Zay and Melody video?
Some of it was, I know in the past in your podcast they had talked about racism and stuff like that. Because of we are in the Bay Area, we were a very diverse group. We were a bunch of us Latinos, we were in there, and then a lot of African Americans, a lot of Asians. But that's just because of our where we live, right? But the racism that I did see was, I remember one night specifically, they were planning, when's our next board meeting, right? Or board or plan, whatever board plan meeting. And they had said May 10th. And a couple of the girls, the Latina girls, were like, oh, can we not do that day because that is Mexican Mother's Day? In Mexico, that's the day they celebrate Mother's Day. And the upline Ruby Madison, she's Cuban. She's like, welcome to America.
I'm sorry, what? Like, actually?
And she was like, no, we're doing it that day.
No, now we're definitely doing it that day is what it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, and you could just tell these girls. I actually could not go that day because as a teacher in my contract, my supervisor can call me anytime to do a night meeting. And that night actually happened to be a school district school board plan. So I had to go to that one. I had to go to a different meeting, a different cult meeting.
Right, right. That's funny.
Um, but I mean, because where I work, it's the same city that I live in and my parents live in. So, I mean, just right after that, I only had to do 1 hour at that meeting and then I booked it to my mom's to celebrate her, right? But
Yeah.
these girls, they live an hour away from the meeting. So you could just tell they were like heartbroken because, well, they couldn't celebrate their mom on that day, you know?
Right.
They're like, but they're, she said something like, but Mother's Day is on Sunday. And she's like, well, not in Mexico.
What? Like I'm dumbfounded because you would imagine that somebody who is also of a different culture would be accepting of other cultures.
Yeah.
That really like Jada said it perfectly in her episode. She was because we were talking about how like yes, our like my upline, they were diverse, but they were all what'd she say, different shades of the same color. She
Hmm.
basically was
Hmm.
like they were all like whitewashed. They were all within this mentality that they had to be just like their upline. And of course, if you go way up the ranks, right, they're all white people. And
Right.
they honestly couldn't care less about other cultures. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But that's sad. Like that's devastating. I mean, I'm not by any means somebody that for me, the equivalent would be Father's Day. I'm not by any means close to my mother. So Mother's Day
Hmm.
isn't a day that I care to celebrate, but Father's Day, that's my equivalent. I would
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry. You're not going to take me away from my dad on Father's Day. You can shove it up your nose. Like, we're not doing
Right.
that, which is so
Right.
sad. What else? What happened after that? I can only imagine.
So after that, that's when I stumbled upon the Zayn Melody video. And, you know, I have to be really grateful to them because as they progressed with these videos, you know, a lot of people were more aware. A lot of people would be in the comment section like, oh, this so and so from this diamond ship is trying to recruit me, you know, and everyone was helping each other, you know. And eventually they made that Facebook page. Um, I didn't really follow the Facebook page all that much just because at that time it wasn't private. So, and mind you, I had not told anyone of my friends or family members about this, you know, and that should have been the
Oh,
first red flag.
right. Dang, you right. No, you're not wrong.
That should have been the first red flag that I would not tell this to a best friend, you know?
Yeah.
So, so so with all of that, it was just one of those like I didn't want to be part of a public group just yet, right? Because I was dealing with my own back and forth demon of like, is this really a cult? Is this not? How could I fall for this? Am I that stupid? You know, it was just a lot of self-doubt. And I didn't want to be part of a public page where what if one of
Totally.
my friends stumbled upon it too, and then here I am, you know, and they're like, wait, why are you in this? You know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That was like so I'm the one I run that page. Now it was totally by accident. I Melody knows I had spoken to her and I was like, hey, I don't know what happened. I posted something and the page made me an admin. I'm so sorry. She was like, no, it's totally fine. Like, I'm glad that the page is still running. So thank you for your blessing.
Yeah.
I did make the page private because I mean, not only was the page just receiving so much like spam from people who were in Amway, um, I guess misconstruing it as an like a pro Amway page, or because I think
Mhm.
it was I think it was about like Amway resources or something. So I put
Right.
X Amway in there just so it was a little bit
Yeah.
more clear. But not only that, Upline has sock puppet accounts in there. My Upline did for sure. That's how
Yeah.
they found my podcast, was because there's no other reason that they
Right.
would have found it. They're not following my personal Instagram. My podcast Instagram was not big yet. And I posted it there. So I know my upline has sock puppets accounts in
Yeah.
there. And nobody should have to be in that page. I mean, but I don't think anybody who's in that page is afraid of their upline by any means, but we shouldn't have to have that fear of, well,
Yeah.
what if my ex upline sees this? Because I can imagine that somebody's ex upline is a genuine psychopath who's going to like
Right. Right. He's gonna
spam
murder
this and
you.
hate,
Yeah.
like, how dare you be like this in this page? You
Yeah.
guys are lying, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to see that. So now it is private. So
Mhm.
you do have to request to join. There are some rules you have to agree to, etc. And I think that also kind of helps to mitigate some of the misinformation that can be spread as well, which is unfortunately common now that talking about Amway is a big thing.
Yeah.
But so, how did leaving look for you? Did you have a conversation with your upline? Did you ghost them? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So my downline, I had sponsored too, and they had been dating for like a million years, like 10 years at that point. And like every Amway couple, they're like, you should get married, right? Um, people have their reasons of why not to get married, and it's not up to us to decide why, right? But they said that they wanted to. They finally made the decision to actually do it. Okay, great. So they had set out their date. I remember it was like late July or early August, and we were at a board plan meeting, and the our diamond Paul was saying, "Oh, when can we have our next meeting for this group?" And my direct sponsor Susan was like, "Oh, I can't that night. I have a work thing." But that was the night of the wedding.
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
remember you telling me about this before, and that's
So then,
right.
so then I was kind of like, "Why are we lying? Why are we lying?" You know, um, four of us, five of us, six of us, right? My two downlines, my husband and I, and then my direct sponsors. Six of us knew that what was happening that night, right? No one else knew.
Right.
And so he was like, okay, let's do it on another night. All right. So we get to the wedding, the reception. We take a picture with the bride and groom, and I post it on Dreamstream. Oh my gosh, we need to talk about the shit show that Dreamstream was too. But we I posted on Dreamstream like, congrats to the newlyweds, all this stuff. And then the next day, Susan calls me and she's like, why did you post that picture? And I'm like, what? She's like, it looks like we're at a club. And I'm like, there's a wedding gown? Like, how, what? it,
I
it's,
I'm just
and,
dumbfounded that you guys
and
had to
my
like lie about this.
my caption literally said, congrats to the newlyweds, right? And she said that Remy, the wife, the diamond wife, had called her and said, like, well, that's inappropriate, like, um, what were you doing there that night, and all this stuff. So I think she got in trouble because she was supposed to be at a work thing, right? So that's when I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Like, there's lying. Also, if you haven't looked up, Amway supports this huge organization. Oh, I forgot what they're called, but they're basically like a security detail system, a private security detail system. They were charged for genocide. So I was like, you know what? They support all this stuff. They're huge Trump supporters. I'm out. And you know what her comeback was? She's like, how do you know that your car wasn't built by Chinese children.
That's the response.
Yeah. I was like,
What?
I
Oh
was
no.
like, okay. So yeah. Let me see if I can find the name. Blackwater. That's the organization. I think they
That's right.
are now, but they were found guilty in a federal court, guilty of genocide, and Amway funds them. They are a private security detail. So, so if you are in Amway, you are funding genocide.
Yeah. You're co-signing a lot of horrible things by being in
Mm-hmm.
this organization. And Amway's definitely got their hands in some really dark shit.
Ew.
I think even the fact that they co-sign what Worldwide does is dark enough, let alone the other stuff like what you're talking about
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is horrific.
Yeah.
So now you're like out of Amway. How did this whole villain arc start for you where you're like, you know what, I want to help take them down anonymously?
Yeah. So I think I'm not a petty person. I've never been one. If someone does something bad to me, I'm the type of person to just walk away and pray for them kind of thing. That's always been my personality. But this one really pissed me off
Oh, I bet.
because I felt like, how stupid do you think I am? Right? And on top of that, you think they're your friends. You tell them things about yourself that you probably haven't told other people, and so to me I was like, oh hell no. Like, they're not going to go down just like that.
Right,
And
right.
one thing that I had remembered was at the last function that I had gone, July, again, to family reunion, we were in Portland. Is I remember my direct sponsor Susan being like, because she had gone platinum at that event, and she was like, y'all need to catch up. She was telling us, to all of her down people, right? Y'all need to catch up, because when you get up here to my level, you don't have to pay for your ticket. And I was like, what? That means I'm supporting you? I paid for your entrance here.
You're not wrong. Wow.
So I was like, so that like stuck with me, right? And that was like, I think that was like really the beginning. I mean, other than Zayn Melody's videos when I saw them in April, but that was like the seed. And I think that was like the last one of the last straws. And then when she called me about the picture on Dreamstream, I was like, okay, I'm done. This is no. So then I had told her, I was like, look, I just want to like go. I'm going to cancel everything. I won't return anything. We're just going to cut it off right here. Right. And I kind of sat with it, and I did delete all of the apps, canceled them. And right away I canceled everything. And then I remembered, and I was like, you know, she can't be, if she's close to an eagle or a double eagle ruby or double eagle anything, if I don't buy my ticket, just like last year where the diamond, Paul said, why has she not bought her ticket? That means she can't sit in a certain section, right? Because if all of your people are there, you can sit where you qualify. If your people are not there, you can't sit there. So I was like, so I kept my Amway membership until like November of that year, when I knew all the big functions were over. So she would not qualify for anything.
That's funny. I
And I
mean,
returned everything. You know how much I got back? Almost $3,000 of products.
hell yes, because they do. Man, I wish I would have done that because they have like what, like a 6-month return policy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know what? They charge you the commission, or sorry, the whatever the bonus they give you have to pay back. So,
What?
and I was like, why do I have to pay this back? And they're like, oh, because when you made money off of it. And I was like, does my sponsor have to do it? They're like, they have to do it too.
Oh, because I mean, what was your commission like? Honestly, like $18 every couple of months.
I had to pay back like $300 out of the 3,000. So I was like, it's
Hell
fine.
yeah. But your upline did too.
They had to.
Okay, I can only imagine how much they had to pay. Definitely
Yeah.
more than 300.
Oh, I'm sure they were pissed, but you know what? That's the least that they deserved.
Wow. I mean, okay, hear me out. That's not petty. I don't think that's petty. I think that's doing your due diligence for yourself. You were well within obviously the regulations of Amway. You
Mhm.
you didn't do anything wrong. I mean,
Right.
it's kind of, you did what you
Yep.
did. I don't think it's petty. But I definitely see why. I mean, I wish I would have done that. Dang. So if you're out there, do that.
Yes. If you just quit, return all your stuff.
Wow. So,
After that,
wow.
I just got into this massive depression. You know, I really have to thank my husband because he was with me the whole time. You know, he held me when I was crying, and I just felt like the dumbest person in the world, right? And he was like, "It's okay. We'll come back from this." We technically never got in debt, right? Because of how they do the budget thing for you.
Yeah.
And but I still owed about $13,000 in school loans at that time. Actually, not even. I still owed about 25. I think I had paid half off when I met them, and then I still owed the other half. And he's like, let's just put that money to the loans and get that paid off. And I was like, okay, but my husband was always there, always there. He never said, like, how could you do this? He was never negative. So I really thank him for that. And then on top of that, I got into Reddit, right? My Red Rose account. I did this Instagram account. And I also have to credit this other friend that I met through Reddit who was also under Paul and Remy's organization, but a whole different downline. And he also was on Reddit, like making sure to comment on everything, like, do not follow these people. They're going to, scam you. And then we just happened to do that private thing on Reddit. And then, uh, and then we met him, like my husband and I were like, okay, like let's meet, right? And we just found um like our people, right? Because it was like, oh, someone else that I know that is going through this, that is not in a
Yeah.
different state, right? So we felt a lot of comfort with him, my husband and I, just talking through things. Um and he was a huge help to us too, because he had already been done with the business for about like 4 months. So where he was in the grief process was 4 months ahead of us, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's like, it's normal. You're going to have your good days. You're going to have your bad days. You're going to have days where like you don't want to do anything. And also, too, my job just wasn't like the kids were fine. But the music supervisor of that time, overseeing all the music teachers, he was an asshole. So not only had I left Amway in this cult and just feeling depressed about that, I had a horrible boss on top of that too. So it was just like, well, where do I go? What do I turn to? Just
Yeah.
massive depression. So when I created the Instagram account, it was like, okay, let's dig in. I always say Mexicanas are better than the FBI. So
Shout out.
so
It's
so I just
true.
started digging in, and their old website, the Worldwide Dream Builders, the old website, um, in their rules and regulations, it says on there that platinums do get paid. It says it
Yep.
on there, and people can go search on my Instagram handle. It says it on there. They get paid. And I was like, oh hell no. Because I remember when I signed on my downline, Philip and Susan were like, we don't get paid anything at all. Nothing. So I was like, that doesn't sound right.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. I'm definitely the one that my friends go to and they're like dating somebody new and they need to get the info. I've got the info. I can get that info. Give me like, I mean, sad enough, my significant other and he's the tech side. I'm the like, I know where to go kind of thing.
Right.
It took us all we had was a username. I'm not proud of this, but I am because it was for a very, very good reason. Um, somebody that I knew, their child had been targeted. We had a username. It took us 2 hours. We doxed this kid. We knew the parent's name. We knew their address.
Dang.
We got in control. We got contacted to the police in their area. 2
Oh
hours
my
is all it took. All we had was a username. So let me tell you, don't do stupid shit because I will find you. And if I
God.
don't,
Exactly.
bros will.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy the things that you find out. You have sent me so much. We've
Hmm.
got to talk about some of the things that you sent me
Yeah.
because oh my god, it is
Yeah.
crazy.
Um, so when I saw that on their website, I went over to Reddit and I started talking to, just on different posts, um, of anti-Amway, right? And I asked one thing saying if platinums get a specific cut of the money from the tools, right?
Yeah.
And one person replied saying that they had been in the business, they had made it to platinum, and they said, you can become an LLC, but that the upline diamond decides what percentage each person gets a cut of. So, yeah.
Wow. Because I remember we had gotten some screenshots from an anonymous source from Canada, and this person was indicating that they would get X amount based on what pin level they were at. So
Mm-hmm.
that's not, I guess, organization wide. That's purely their diamond ship then is
Yeah.
who set those numbers. Wow. Okay. That puts new perspective on it. Because if you got a greedy ass diamond,
Yeah. Yeah. So
what?
if your diamond likes you more than me, then you would get a bigger cut.
What? That is aggravating. What? Okay, what else? What other juicy goss you got?
Let's see. Oh, okay. And then I also asked this person, I heard um, a platinum say that after a certain pin level, one doesn't have to pay for functions. Is that true? And they responded, that certain pin level is platinum. Anyone walking around with a gold badge on didn't pay to be there.
What? Platinums didn't have to pay? The ones that are
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be making all this big money, the first Amway recognition
Yeah,
pin, and they're free.
they're free. Yeah.
Wow. That's wild.
I had also sent you, let's see. Oh, you know how they say that you can give your kids your business? Well, according to the Amway rules and regulations, they have to be an IBO for like a year or two, for 2 years before you can give them your business. So if you die and your child is not an IBO, you cannot will them your business. And
Wow.
they had said that over and over, like I can give my child my business, but according to this, it says the child or children must be personally registered by the parents, or the parent must be personally registered by the children, right? The parent's IB and the child's IB must have been operated as a separate IB for not less than 2 years by date of implementation. The parent and child shall be qualified at the level of platinum or above as of the implementation date.
Dang. So I remember my diamond, the club owner, this guy, in one of the audios that I released of him speaking, he was like, if you're in Amway, you can't will it. But if you contract with Amway and multiple different companies, you can. This is an investment that you're building, your asset. So
Mm-hmm.
deceptive that this
Yeah,
guy really tried to make us believe like we were in something other than Amway. We were in Amway. I don't
yeah, you were
know.
in Amway.
That's so
um,
cringe.
which brings me to today. I had posted. It's been a while since I posted on my Instagram handle, but I posted the average income uh, of platinums. But right above that, I should post this too. It says there are Amway licensed independent training organizations known as approved providers who may offer you value-added training and support in addition to what Amway offers. You can choose to take part in this training, but you aren't required to. So that means you don't have to do a line of affiliation whatsoever.
Right.
But they make it seem like you cannot build this in any way, shape, or form without their guidance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, this is you wouldn't want to do this without us. You can't do this without us, basically.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of your guests say, like, we have better ideas. And I'm sure they
Oh,
would have
yeah.
been successful if, they built it as a true people's business versus, just money business, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
But doesn't the Amway website also talk about how they're not supposed to use their lifestyle
Yeah,
as a way to, I
I should have
guess,
been a
build this?
lawyer. In the rules of regulations of 5.41, 5.4.1, it says must not cite lifestyle examples, travel, automobile, homes of successful IBOs, and contributions to charitable causes unless such benefits were actually accrued as the result of building a successful IB. And I think what they mean by that is through the Amway side, not through the tools.
But on the other hand, they're like, you can join one of these lines of affiliation, but the lines of affiliation, what they're doing is against their rules. I'm confused.
Right. So everyone's turning a blind eye. Everyone is just looking the other way because the money is louder.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there an Amway rep at all of these different functions?
Yeah, there should be.
Wow. Amway is fucking dark.
It is.
Like, really dark. I mean, it probably gets darker. There's some things I don't even need to know. I don't need some dude in a
Yeah,
black
I'm
suit coming.
good.
But it really makes me cringe because I felt very similarly to you when you're like, how like am I really stupid? Like, how did they get me? Like, why? Like, I felt I for 3 years did not tell anybody about my time at
Mhm.
Amway. I just kind of like brushed under the rug. The only people I really talked to about it was my dad. Because my dad's very much a like I told you so kind of guy in the
Right.
most
Yeah,
loving of ways, but definitely like I fucking told you not to do that kind of a thing.
right.
But when I started to really open up about it and came here to talk about it, I realized that I'm not the only one, obviously, who went through this. And I think that's what I love about this community that we've built up is that we recognize that one, these feelings are all normal. We've all, at one point felt this, but that we're not alone, that there's so many more people trying to leave this organization or spreading awareness about this organization. I mean, all of them, like just Amway, the enterprise itself, right? And
Yeah.
it really sheds light on all of these different lies that we were told. And I think we talked about this earlier that, in my humble opinion, I think that this allegedly proves that their Amway saved the founder's wife from Denny's is bullshit. Like that
Right.
story, could she have been working there? Like, sure, but there's no fucking way. Like, the way that they've built this tools business, there's really no, I guess, real history about how he started Worldwide Dream Builders. We know that he did the Amway and he did the Denny's or to be broker from the Denny's, and but there's no real history. How did he start Worldwide? Why did he start Worldwide? We know about Brit Worldwide, but we only
Right.
know about how Brit Worldwide is because of ex members leaving.
Right.
And then of course Roberta Blevins, her episode where she has the historian on, where he talks about the history, of course, as a historian. But as IBOs, we were so in the dark. I mean, I didn't even, did you know that diamonds were speaking for other lines of affiliation altogether, like Brit Worldwide Ltd URA?
Yeah, I found that out after once I
Okay.
started, um, researching all of them. And I was like, huh, that's kind of weird. And then also one time they showed us a speech about another woman, and then she was the speaker for the LuLaRoe MLM.
Oh, oh God, that's not
So
good. Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
But
Wow.
going back to the tool stuff, you can go right now on Amway's website. It's public knowledge, right? It says the top 1% of the IBOs make an average of $87,422. Worldwide is
Wow.
claiming a million a year when you get to diamond level.
Yes, they are. You're right.
Where's the other 900 whatever $1,000?
Yeah. They had to have been inflating the numbers with what they were making with worldwide, but they were not being transparent about it at all.
But then that makes me question, like, okay, so how much was communicate? Like, I don't know. I don't even remember. It's been so long.
30, I think it was like $30. And then worldwide, the app was like $80 a month when I was
Right.
there. So the way that the
So,
guy kind of broke it down when we were talking, when he in the screenshots, as far as his line of affiliation or line of sponsorship goes, they were making, I believe, like at a platinum level, like $2 from each Cape membership and
mhm,
$7 from each worldwide membership. But that number percentage goes up the higher pin level you are. At Diamond, you
right.
get 100% of that, was the way that he explained it. So imagine you're making what, $200 a head at what, 2,000 people potentially in your organization?
Yep.
That's a big chunk. That's what, upwards of $400,000.
Yeah. And then on top of that, how much of the cut of tickets are they getting? Plus the regionals and all that.
Yes.
'Cause,
And yep, because they're
I
paid
had
speakers.
looked up I had looked up the place where the upline diamonds had their uh they would have their entire organization come together like 2 or 3 times a year. And they had to
Yes.
split it into 2 nights. So I looked up the place, right? It said if you're a resident of that county, I believe, it was depending on the time, but if it was a weekday, it was $125 an hour. If you are non-resident, $155 an hour. So I made the math. Okay, so let's say um, they do 5 hours, right? 7 p.m. to midnight, which is about $1,700. But they're charging you $15 to get in. And let's say there are 500 people, that's $7,500. So the remaining is $5,700. Where does the rest of it go? And and that was another red flag because I had seen the upline Ruby Charlie. He was in like the upstairs and I saw him counting money, right? Because they only charged us in cash, zero checks. And that
Yep.
was not through the app either, because it was its own private thing that the upline diamond wanted to do, right?
Yep.
So I saw him counting cash, and then he comes down with a briefcase, and then he hands
Oh
it.
god,
And I'm like, that's all our money right there.
that's drug money.
And he had that split 2 nights. So that means he was making $10,000 on those 2 nights.
That, I mean, honestly, it makes sense. It really does. The guy who texted us, that we had text messages from, it basically, like, the number that he gave on the low end was like $3,000, and I think that that's like the lower pin levels.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely, like, these diamonds are getting paid to speak. Like, they would try to say, "Oh, they're here for free out of the goodness of their heart."
Right.
Bullshit. They're
Yeah.
traveling a lot of the time. I mean,
Yeah.
we're paying for big crown guys' fucking private
Yeah.
jets.
And when I'm hearing your guests say they had to pay for Zoom meetings, oh no.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. For COVID, that's what Hope and Fisher talked about, was like, they're like, why do we have to still pay for two full price tickets for Zoom
Mm-hmm.
functions? I was like, excuse me. They're like, that's when they really started to understand that they were getting um paid from this somehow, some
Yeah.
way. And even crazier is, I was talking to other lines of affiliation altogether, so like with Brit Worldwide and URA, some of them had like weekly meetings, like, our board plans were free and someone's like
Yeah.
jank apartment or wherever, right in their house, they're paying $7 every single week. Their apps were also more expensive than ours. They had like for LTD, their like premium, like VIP membership was like $200 a month.
Wow.
They had, yeah, that was like their highest. Of course, it was like different tiers. But the highest was the $200. Um, And I remember Ksenia, when she was in Brit Worldwide, she talked about spending $200 a month on just books, like just materials. That didn't
Wow.
include the app and ditto and everything. Like, it's insane to me just how much money they're charging. But
Mhm.
Meredith put it in a really good way because she was in Brit Worldwide as well and talked about the weekly charging and meetings. She's like, it was never enough to question, which I kind of think that way as well
Yeah.
when I was in Worldwide and I think about the rallies. At the time, it was like $10 for the first half, $10 for the second half.
Yeah.
It's now 20 bucks. $20 for the first portion, $20 for the second person. So if that's a couple, that is $80
Mhm. To
going
hear
to
the same
this.
thing.
Yep. Yeah. It's
You go to one, you go to
crazy.
all of them.
Well, for sure. Definitely. And the fact that they're like the Kool-Aid is so strong though.
Yeah.
Like I have Crossline who are still in the organization. I reached out after 4 years and I was like, it's been 4 years. Like, I thought it was safe. It was not
Yeah.
safe. They ghosted me because they found out what I did. I hope I have grace for them. Kind
Yeah.
of like we talked about before, even at the platinum level, the brainwashing is still so heavy and so strong. And the belief is there. You want to believe that this could work. You want to believe that these people that you've given so much of your life to are going to be your best friends. Like for
Mhm.
me, I never thought that I was not going to be friends with Jenny and Greg. Jenny was in the room with me when I gave birth to my child. Like I
Yeah.
thought we were going to be besties for life.
Yeah.
Like there were people who really contemplated naming their kids after their upline. They didn't, but they had thought about it because those were their heroes. Like
Right.
we were all at some point in so deep. And I think that that's one thing that I hope people recognize. If you guys were not in something like this, you have to understand that, like, they hit a nerve with us.
Mhm.
For Rose, it was the debt. It was finding something for her husband or who would at the time be her future husband to do to
Mhm.
make money. For me, it was I wanted to desperately get away from my mother. I wanted to heal after domestic
Yeah.
violence. Like it we're not stupid. Very, very highly intelligent people, or people like it has nothing to do with your intelligence level. It has everything to do with the way that they sell it to you.
Definitely. And they're trained to do that. They're trained to hear your story and boom, that's the vulnerable point and that's it. It can happen to anyone, you know. Um ev- Not everyone is super happy 100% of the time. We have um valleys in our lives and they just caught us on one of those where we were unsure of the future and we were the target.
Absolutely. And they use their toxic positivity to really prey
Mhm.
on people. There's no such thing as negativity in these organizations. No negative goes downline. Like realistically, we don't know our upline. We'd like to believe that we've
Right,
known them for so long. I knew them for 3 years. I didn't know them. I
right.
didn't know my sponsor and his wife. I thought we were tight. This poor woman was going through DV and her upline was
Mhm.
telling her to keep quiet, don't say anything. Well, so into
Wow.
him. They all co-sign that. That's why every episode I try to say fuck Robert because this guy knows who he is and his downline don't know what he's like because they can't
Yeah,
spread negative downline. And
right.
it breaks my heart that Jess went through something so traumatic and the people that she brought into the organization to be her friends for life, they're still tight with her now ex-husband and they don't know
Yeah,
what's going on. And of course it's that forgiveness of like they don't know what they don't know
right.
and they're media trained basically. It's like the equivalent. You ask them a question, they are trained on how to respond and rebuttal to those negative remarks.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I hope my downline gets out. I did see that one of our mutual friends was given a goodie bag with Exes in it, so I was like, "Well, they're
Go
still
for
there."
it. Right. Wow.
But,
I'm impressed by all of your knowledge. I think that you have done an incredible deep dive and really have just given so much valuable information that hopefully if you guys are in the organization and you're listening to this, just hear us out. Like
yeah.
we don't have this big conspiracy against Amway. In fact, Amway has this big conspiracy against us, if I'm being
Yeah.
like 100 with you. But just listen, you guys. Like, I know that it can be hard to hear the truth. That's why, I'm gonna use a Stranger Things example. I love the show. So I think it's episode or no, season 2, where the guy, I forgot his name, but essentially he's like telling the two who want to expose everything, and he's drinking liquor, and he's like, you have to water it down. You guys, it's the same thing with us. Like, we can give you all of this heavy hitting information, but it can be a lot. It can be too much.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
if that's you, sorry. There are other people who are watering it down for you, though. Those are the people that I
Yeah,
think are so well equipped to help get people out. Whereas I am here to help people who are already out to have a
yeah,
voice. And I think that's my favorite thing about this community is we all have a different contrast of perspective.
definitely. And question it all. Like, am I really ahead of where I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago, however long you've been in the business? I can say with certainty we are miles ahead without it. I came out of school with 50 grand in debt. I paid it off. After we left the business in 1 year, I paid off the remaining 25. Um, so I mean, a lot of that helped being in COVID because we couldn't go anywhere, spend anything, travel, right?
Yeah.
Um, but we just shifted our money to boom over there, right? And we were able to buy a car, we were able to, have a child and provide for our child and be there for our child, like these women who, like, I remember the Canadian couple, what are Dawn and Mary.
Hmm.
I remember they had, I don't know, they have like a million children. Whenever they had one of them, um, she was like, "Oh, we got their passport in like 2 days and we're here." She was like 1 week postpartum. And I'm like, "What?" I think about that now. My 1 week postpartum, I was crying. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, "Who gave me permission to be a parent?" Like,
Right.
this whole breastfeeding thing, I was like, "What is going on?" And I thought about her somewhere along the line, and I was like, "What was she thinking? What was she thinking exposing her newborn to germs, to an airplane,
Right. It's,
herself?"
yeah, I'm
You know,
guilty of
that's why
that.
it's like that's why in the old days, you know, I know it's very outdated, but in the old days, women would quarantine for 40 days with their child because you're so exposed, right? Your whole body, whether you had a C-section or vaginal birth, your whole body is just open to the world, right? It's trying
Yeah.
to come back, take its time to heal, right? And I was just thinking, like, what is she doing? Like, why did she do that? And then I remember another diamonds, I forgot their names and what they did, but she said, "Oh yeah, I had given birth. My husband was there, and then he left because there was a function." And I'm like, "What?" Now that I'm a parent, I'm like, I would kill my husband if I'm like,
For
"You're going to work?"
for sure. Yeah, definitely. Like it's crazy, but I can understand the manipulation into doing that. I had a C-section, and like 3 days later I was at a major
Oh,
function. My
yeah.
outline coached me as to when to have my child so I could see John Maxwell speak. And I lost my milk supply. It was hands down the worst
Mm,
experience, the worst decision I ever made. But you're right. As when I first had my child, like my first child, I would have never imagined doing that. And now looking back at my second child, I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like,
yeah,
I am so like the guilt that I have is immense,
yeah,
but at the same time, I didn't know what I didn't know. I still thought this was gonna make me stay at home. I mean, I'm a stay at home mom now, but like I thought that was gonna be my end all be all. I was gonna be wealthy, and I was gonna
yeah,
have these 2 kids, and we were gonna be doing fantastic. And it's like
yeah,
I didn't need any of that. I mean, they made it feel as if it was some sort of impossibility for anybody to be with their kids as long, or they would criticize working parents for being away from their kids and putting them in childcare. I'm
mhm,
sorry, my
mhm,
oldest was in childcare up until he was in kindergarten. It
yeah,
was how it went. I had to do it. And did we have bad experiences? Yeah, we did. But never once on an application was I ever told, "Do you want us to lie if we see your child walk for the first time?" That's one
right,
thing that one of my
yeah,
upline would say.
Mhm.
That's not true. In fact, I don't know a single parent who was devastated that they couldn't see their
Yeah,
child walk for the first time. The daycare providers, nine times out of 10, will try to record it for one. And for two, they'll tell you, they're like, you'll never guess what your child did today. It's
yeah,
more of like an excitement because you're going to continue to see them walk. That
right.
first time is, it's, yes, it's crucial and it's very special. But if they do it at childcare, they're going to do it for you at home. Promise you that. They're
Yeah,
going to do it 10 times over again. You're not going to get them to
yeah,
sit down. So
yeah. But even, like, in worldwide, I always felt like I would never fit into the cookie cutter housewife they want women to
God.
be.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, I am not meant to be a stay-at-home mom,
You are.
100% no. Give me middle schoolers, give me I teach band, like, give me 40 middle schoolers with an instrument in their hand, and
Oh
I
yeah.
will take that on top of my toddler. Like,
No, it's a hard. It's so
I
hard. It's not something I wanted to
yeah,
do after I left to be like
yeah,
100. Now that I have to do it, it is depressing. That's why I do this because if I didn't have human interaction like this, I would have offed myself a long
right.
time ago. Sorry, not sorry.
No,
It's
it is. You know,
hard.
I had massive postpartum depression and anxiety, and it wasn't until I went back to work when my son was 5 months that it took a month for it to, like, leave me, you know? And speaking of that, one of my last Kates in worldwide was a woman getting off her antidepressants, and it made me so sad for her, and I hope she's doing well because now that I have experienced that, I don't know how anyone would recommend to get off your antidepressants.
Yes. It is such a dangerous, dangerous thought process to even
Mhm,
have, let alone to express to other people. That was actually what's crazy is that you say that is my upline platinums, John and Barbara, their daughter who would go on a Mary Crossline. First major function where we were listening to them speak, little night huddles, night owls before the fact. That was one of the first things I ever heard her say was that this organization helped her get off of her antidepressants. And I, looking back now as somebody who's very pro medication, like
mhm,
you don't ever tell somebody that. They were so anti medication. I
mhm.
mean, especially when it came to like ADHD medication for kids. I'm sorry. I medicate my child and I will be very open about it because I think
Yeah,
other ADHD parents need that support that it's okay because some people, children, me, I take Adderall for my ADHD. I for the life of me never knew what a normal functioning life was like until I did. My
yeah.
child's the same way. He cannot function without it. That kid literally can't. And you know what? That's okay. It's a tool in his tool belt. It's like
You know yeah.
it.
As a teacher, I'm always telling parents, like, test if they show signs, like, test them for this, test them for that, and I have had so many parents who are like, "Absolutely not, my child there's nothing wrong with them." No, there isn't. That they just need a different kinda help. They just learn differently, and they might need think about it like they might have high blood pressure. They just need that one pill a day for their blood pressure, you know? It's the same thing.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with them.
Nope.
They just need a
And
little more help. That's it.
yeah, and accommodations. It's amazing the
Yeah,
accommodations that you can get for a kid who has ADHD or autism or
yeah, and
any
that's
various
fine,
different learning disability. It's amazing. Like it's the best thing for that child.
and when they preach this, and parents believe that their child doesn't need anything, it's like, well, your child is gonna fail at
Yep.
everything because we have to teach them the same as another child when we could accommodate and they can still succeed.
Now, and I have the privilege of speaking with educators like you who can actually give perspective from a teacher's point of view. Because at the end of the day, teachers are more often with our kids, sometimes longer than we are in the
Yep,
day. And our kids act
yep.
differently for teachers. So if you guys are out there listening, please, for the love of God, don't do your children dirty because of what Worldwide says.
Please don't. Please don't. Please accommodate them.
Yes. Well, I could not be more grateful for your time. I have learned so much from you. I mean, the amount of things that I've been able to share from with my audience that you shared with me has been incredible. From the disclaimer at the end of the audios,
Oh,
I
yeah.
totally even forgot that was a thing. When I shared that to my story, I had so many people be like, "It was right under our nose all this
Mhm,
time," or
mhm.
all of these different things. You have done so much for this community. And you guys, if you are not already following, Please go follow. Her handle is one more time.
WWDB_scam.
By Dream Builders _scam. Okay. Um, if what are some last words that you have for us, Rose?
You know, anything you do in life, really think about it. Is this going to take you on the road that you see yourself in 40, 50, 60 years? We only get one life, you know, and even if it is a mistake, can you come back from that? And you know, if you're I know Danny says at the beginning, like, you're an adult, you can make decisions. I'm telling you right now, as a teacher, it's a rule. Do not join this. As a teacher, I'm
I
telling you what to do right now.
listen. I say it for legal purposes. I have to. What my guest says based on her personal opinions. Don't sue me.
Yeah. No, but you know what? I also tell my students we all have choices, right? But we are not free of the consequence of that choice. So if you are in this right now and you're debating and you're hearing this, just think of your life. Have you grown from this? Have you paid off your debt? What have you given up? I gave up my best friend's wedding to go to a function. I regret that every time I think about it. You know, are we still best friends? We are, but it took so much of me, right? It destroyed a little part of me, right? That I can never get back. I can never go back to that day, right? So think about it. Really sit there and think about it. And is this going to benefit you in the long run? And if you have any seed of doubt, you know your answer.
I am so grateful that you were so willing to come here and share your story and share all of this knowledge that you've shared with us. I know I'm sure you will find so much more to share. But thank you again so much. If you guys want to be like Rose and you want to share your story, it doesn't even have to be worldwide specific, Amway specific. If you're a survivor of some type and you want to come spread awareness, please do. You guys can email me at dani@exesandtpodcast.com. You are still welcome to DM me on Instagram if that's the best for you. That is exesandt.podcast. You guys can find me on TikTok at the same handle, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else that podcasts are heard. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.